It's Chance and Fallon taking the stage. Deep dives ready to engage. Conversations that spark the soul, where stories unfold and make you whole. The Chance and Fallon show's the place to be. Talking about the world and what we need to see. Tune in now, don't miss a beat. Articulation Media's got you on your feet.
Welcome to the Chance and Fallon Show.
We are doing a deep dive today into a municipal development project, but this one is, well, it's massive. Truly rewriting the map in Jackson, Mississippi.
That's right. We're talking 640 acres. And this story, you'll see, it weaves together some really deep Mississippi history, major industrial cleanup, and even the funding of public education itself.
Exactly. We're focusing on the redevelopment of the Lake Hico property in Jackson. And just for clarity, it's pronounced Hico.
Hico, yeah. And what makes this so interesting, I think, is that the sources we're looking at show these two, totally different realities side by side.
You mean the official plan versus the community pushback?
Precisely. You've got this long-term, very complex institutional plan from the school district, and then right alongside it, this really sharp, almost fiery grassroots opposition demanding something now.
So our mission today is pretty clear then. We need to untangle that history first, especially the difficult parts, the segregation, the industrial use, and then contrast that official phased plan from Jackson Public Schools, JPS, with these really powerful critiques and frankly different visions coming from community activists.
It really boils down to patience versus urgency, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So to really get the scale here, we have to start with the land itself, because it's not typical city property, is it?
Not at all. Lake Hico is what's called 16th section land.
Now, that's a concept that might be unfamiliar to listeners outside Mississippi. Can you break down what that actually means? Why does JPS control this land?
Yeah, it's crucial. It's state-owned trust property. It goes way back to the 19th century when Mississippi became a state.
All right.
Basically, in every township, the 16th section of land was set aside specifically to generate revenue for public schools.
Just for schools?
Just for schools. There's over 640,000 acres like this across the state. JPS manages this particular plot, and its only job, legally, is to make money for the school district through leases or development.
Okay, so the land's purpose is literally funding education, which explains the pressure to make it profitable.
Absolutely. And for decades, that profit came from industry. The land was leased out for a power plant.
The Rex Brown Steam Electric Station.
Exactly. Built back in the 1940s. And Lake Hico itself, this is important, it wasn't a natural lake.
No.
It was engineered, constructed in the 50s.
Why?
Specifically to be a giant cooling pond for the power plant's machinery. It drew water from the Pearl River nearby.
So built for industry, but then it briefly became a recreational spot in the 60s.
Briefly, yes. And this is where the story takes that darker turn you mentioned. It was strictly segregated. You see things like the Jackson Yacht Club, founded there in 1960, for white residents only.
And its time as a public space was really short.
Very short-lived. It closed to the public in 1968. The reasons were, well, layered. It happened right after the Civil Rights Act of 1964 passed.
Which mandated integration.
Right. And we know many southern cities, rather than integrate public places like parks and pools, just shut them down completely. That was the Jim Crow playbook.
So they closed Lake Hico to avoid integration.
That seems to be the primary driver, yes. Officially, they often cited things like insurance liability concerns too, but the timing, 1968, it's pretty telling. The lake was shut down to avoid racial integration.
Wow. That's heavy. So the land just sat there, closed off for 50-plus years, basically.
Right.
Still used by the plant, but locked away from the public.
Pretty much. Trapped in that history, serving as a cooling pond, until very recently.
Lots of energy left.
Right. Energy, running the plant, retired Rex Brown, and gave up the lease around 2019-2020. And here's the key detail that sets up today's situation. The original lease required energy to restore the land.
Restored how?
Back to its planned use as a recreational venue. That was part of the deal when they eventually left.
Oh, okay. So that obligation, that restoration requirement leads us straight into the environmental side of things. Because you can't just flip a switch on a cooling pond.
No, absolutely not. Since it was basically an industrial facility operating under a wastewater permit, the water quality of the soil, everything was potentially unsafe for people to just jump back into.
So energy had a major cleanup on its hands.
Huge. They had to drain the entire lake first.
Drain it.
Yeah, drain it, breach the levee, holding the water back, implode the whole Rex Brown power plant structure,
Wow.
and then clear the land. It was a massive remediation effort, all overseen by MDEQ, the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality.
And is that process finished now?
The heavy demolition is done, yes, but the environmental testing and monitoring, that's ongoing. The initial estimate was maybe 12 to 18 months of continued testing.
Okay. But what's the current status? Is it considered safe?
The news from JPS, based on their research, is positive. They're saying the land is in a really good place now regarding contaminants.
Yeah.
And the soil density is apparently good enough for building, so it sounds like they feel ready for development.
But think about the money side of that cleanup period. JPS, as the landowner trying to fund schools, had to let energy off the hook for lease payments while all this remediation was happening.
That's a critical point. It wasn't just a few months. It could have been over a year, with zero lease revenue coming in from that huge parcel.
And JPS called that a significant loss of revenue.
Yes, explicitly. And remember, the whole point of 16th section land is continuous funding for schools. So that downtime created enormous pressure.
Pressure to get it generating income again, safely and substantially.
Exactly. Which brings us right to the official vision JPS is now pushing forward.
Led by the superintendent, Dr. Eric L. Green, he kicked off the public process with a big community forum back in November 2024.
Right, at Callaway High School. And he was very clear in his messaging, saying, and I'm quoting here, "This process will be community-driven. This is not a JPS-driven project."
Trying to emphasize collaboration from the start.
Definitely seems that way. And the scale they're talking about really justifies all the attention. The architect involved, Roy Decker, called it the largest growth opportunity of any U.S. southern city.
That's quite a claim. Largest in any southern city.
Huge claim. And to help people visualize just how big 640 acres is, JPS used this great comparison.
What was it?
They said, imagine the footprint of the Fondren neighborhood, plus Jackson State University's campus, plus all of downtown Jackson combined.
Whoa. Okay, that puts it in perspective. It's not just a park. It's like building a whole new district.
Pretty much. Their own term for the concept is mixed use on steroids.
Huh. Okay, so how are they getting that community input Dr. Green promised?
They're in the middle of a 6-month planning phase right now. Lots of surveys, QR codes at the forums, online access, trying to really quantify what the community wants to see there.
And what are people saying they want? Any early results?
Yeah, they shared a word cloud from the initial survey responses. The biggest words, the top priorities, were clearly recreation, community, and entertainment.
Okay, so people want public spaces back.
Definitely. But then you also saw strong interest in housing, business, and retail, followed by more specific things like sports facilities, education uses, even water tourism and solar power generation.
A real mix. Did any specific ideas jump out?
Well, one resident, Zach Service, mentioned wanting things like quality housing, plenty of green space, safe walking paths for kids, maybe some gardens. Pretty grounded stuff.
Yeah.
Others brought up ideas like dedicated industry or office space, or even specialized educational centers focusing on farming or green energy.
I saw a mention about an outdoor amphitheater, too. Someone pointed out that Brandon, the suburb nearby, has one, and Jackson really needs its own large outdoor venue.
Right. That speaks to a desire for Jackson to kind of reclaim its status as a cultural hub, doesn't it?
It does. And is the city government on board with this JPS-led effort?
Seems like it. The Jackson City Council is looking at a resolution to formally support reopening Lake Hico for public recreation.
Why is a resolution important?
Because it specifically states that the economic benefits generated must go to JPS and support broader community development. It legally ties the project back to that core 16th section mission.
Okay, so we've got this huge piece of land, massive potential, financial pressure, community input. But 640 acres doesn't develop itself overnight, especially when JPS says they aren't paying for the construction.
Exactly, which is why the phased approach laid out by the architects Duval Decker is so important to understand. It's all about how to actually make this happen financially.
So break down that phasing for us. How does it start?
Okay, the plan is structured to generate revenue early and attract developers without using JPS funds. Phase 1, or early development, covers the first say 0 to 3 years.
And the focus there is?
Minimal spending, maximum early public access, and starting some revenue flow.
Like what? What can you do quickly on newly remediated land?
Think temporary high visibility stuff, large-scale public events. They mentioned festivals, maybe like the Delta Blues Festival as an analogy, field days for schools, opening up basic walking trails now that the land is stable, even planting timber. You can do that right away, minimal cost, and it provides a future revenue stream when harvested. The whole idea is low overhead, quick wins, showing the site is usable and active.
All right, prove the concept before you ask for the big bucks for infrastructure, which leads to phase 2.
Exactly. The midterm phase, maybe years 2 through 7, this is where the pivot towards attracting serious developers happens.
What needs to happen first?
Infrastructure. Using that early revenue and the site's proven potential, JPS needs to somehow fund the basics. Roads, water, sewer, utilities, fiber optics. That infrastructure becomes the bait.
The bait for private developers.
Precisely. To get them interested in starting the first housing projects, maybe on specific sections of the property that are prepped and ready.
And then the long-term vision, beyond year 7.
That's the full build-out. More housing, dedicated business zones, retail areas, and potentially integrating it more deeply with the city's infrastructure.
Yeah.
Things like maybe new ramps off I-220 nearby or connections to Hawkins Field Airport. The whole mixed-use on steroids vision realized.
Okay, but let's circle back to that critical finance piece. JPS was adamant. JPS will not fund the development of this property.
Unequivocal on that point.
So if the school district isn't paying, how does this massive project actually get built? Where does the money come from?
It has to be external sources.
Yeah.
It's essentially a public-private partnership model they're aiming for.
Meaning
They need private developers willing to bring their own money, their own equity to the table.
And how does JPS attract them?
By creating the right conditions. That means things like leveraging tax credits, getting favorable zoning from the city, and crucially, securing major financial support from higher levels, the federal government, the state of Mississippi, big grants, infrastructure funding.
So the vision they create has to be compelling enough to attract serious outside investment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It has to appeal not just locally, but to developers potentially looking from across the country.
Okay, now we have to pivot. Because while JPS is outlining this very careful, long-term, financially constrained plan, there's a completely different energy coming from some community activists, a real sense of agency.
Yes, this is where the friction really shows up. You have figures like Dr. Pertis Williams, who leads a group called Project HUEmanity.
And their focus is different.
Radically different. They've been campaigning hard for immediate action. Specifically, reopen the park and the beach area right now.
Wait, but the lake was drained for remediation.
Exactly. Dr. Williams has actually argued that filling in the lake, which seems to be part of the remediation or leveling process, was itself a major mistake.
Why?
He feels the current flat cleared land is less valuable to the community than having the original lake and beach back, even if it takes work. He wants that recreational access immediately restored.
And his critique goes beyond just the physical state of the
Yeah.
land, right?
Yeah.
It's political.
Deeply political. He connects the decades of inaction, the lake staying closed, directly to city leadership. He's accused elected officials, calling them the wrong people, of having, quote, done nothing to reverse the actions of racism.
That's very direct language. How does he tie the current JPS plan into that?
He argues that by letting the lake stay closed now and focusing on a plan that might take decades, they're actually making things worse, harming the tax base and the schools. He sees this slow, methodical process as just another way of continuing the exclusion that started back in 1968.
He even brought historical figures into it?
Yes, suggesting that what he calls the black middle class, positioning them as gatekeepers, were the very people Malcolm X and Maya Angelou warned about, implying they're protecting a status quo that doesn't serve the wider community's immediate needs.
So the timeline is really the core disagreement here.
It's a clearest flashpoint, absolutely. Dr. Williams claims his vision, reopening for recreation, could happen in but a few years. He contrasts that sharply with the official JPS plan, which he characterizes as taking 30 or 50 years to complete. Big difference in perceived timelines.
And it's not just Dr. Williams. We heard other community concerns too, right? About what gets built, not just when.
Yes, that came up with the forums. For instance, a resident named Anastasia Taylor questioned the idea of including a big new shopping center.
Why? What was her reasoning?
Pretty practical. She pointed out that existing shopping areas, like the North Park Mall or the outlets in Pearl, seem to be struggling already. So why build more retail that might just compete and struggle too.
That's a fair question for any developer proposing retail space there. They need to show it's actually viable.
Exactly. If you're relying on private equity, those developers need to believe their specific project, whether it's housing, retail, office space, will actually succeed financially.
Okay, let's try to synthesize this. We've got this huge 640-acre opportunity, potentially transformative for Jackson, land that's supposed to fund public schools.
A massive asset, yeah.
But it's completely tangled up in this incredibly painful history of racial segregation, decades of industrial use, and now the cost and complexity of a massive environmental cleanup.
It's carrying a lot of baggage.
So the key takeaway for you, the listener, I think, is realizing this isn't just about developing land. It's not just a real estate deal.
Not even close. It's an attempt, really, to tackle decades of social and economic challenges in Jackson, using this one massive piece of property as the lever.
All while balancing that legal mandate funding schools with this deep, passionate community desire to undo past wrongs and see revitalization happen quickly.
It's a monumental balancing act.
And JPS is trying to navigate that by using this broad, thriving community framework in their planning. They're talking about hitting all the marks: knowledge, learning, the good, the beautiful, economic prosperity, justice, sustainability.
Basically everything you'd want in a healthy city.
Which leads to maybe a final thought, or perhaps a question for you to ponder. If Jackson Public Schools' core mission, its legal reason for being, is education, and this huge piece of land is primarily supposed to serve that mission financially, how realistic is it to expect this single 640-acre development project to also satisfy this incredibly vast, incredibly varied vision for the entire city's social, economic, and civic future?
Right. Can one project, even a massive one tied to school funding, realistically be the cure-all for so many complex urban challenges? That seems to be the underlying question Jackson has to grapple with in the coming months and years.
It's Chance and Fallon taking the stage. Deep dives ready to engage. Conversations that spark the